In the stillness of the night, the base alarms shattered the silence. Someone had breached the facility. And then she appeared, a commander long believed dead, her eyes heavy with pain. "I didn't come to fight," she said, gazing at the girl. "I came for my daughter." But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The med bay was dim, sterile, too quiet for what it held. Machines hummed with soft regularity, casting pale light over the narrow cot where the girl lay curled, knees to chest. Her eyes, silver and wide, tracked every movement, not with fear, but with something older, deeper, a kind of quiet scrutiny that didn't belong to a 6-year-old. Not a full one, anyway. Captain Michael Carter stood in the threshold, unmoving. His boots echoed once on the steel floor as the door sealed shut behind him. He hadn't spoken yet. Couldn't. Not with the way her gaze pinned him, like she knew something. Like she remembered something he didn't. The girl was small, but not fragile in the way most expected. Her limbs were delicate, her frame lean, bones fine under the pale lavender skin. Not quite Siroth, not quite human. Her hair was a faint silvery blue, curled in thin tendrils that caught the artificial light and shimmered like thread spun from starlight. But it was the eyes, silver, unblinking, rimmed with faint violet, that struck him hardest. They were Thais's eyes. He knelt beside the cot. She flinched, almost imperceptibly, then sat up with too much grace for a child, back straight, head tilted, watching. "What's your name?" he asked, voice low. "Ariel," she said softly. No accent, crisp, deliberate English. "Where is my mother?" Michael swallowed. Her voice was higher than he expected, and haunting, like it belonged in an empty cathedral after the last song faded. The way she said "mother" wasn't childlike. It was disciplined, trained. She didn't make it," he managed. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't cry. Just looked at him, steady and silent, before murmuring, "I know, but I thought maybe—" She stopped herself. "Do you remember her?" he asked. She wore a red sash over her command armor. Her left hand had a scar. "She used to sing to me in English, not Sirothian. I asked why. She said—" Ariel paused. Her gaze softened, her voice thinner now. "She said it would help if something ever happened." Michael exhaled shakily. Thais had planned for this. Planned him into this. This wasn't random. This child, this impossibility, had been sent to him deliberately, and he couldn't turn away. He reached out gently. She looked at his hand for a long time before touching it. "I'll take you with me," he said. "No labs, no tests. You're not a specimen." Her fingers tightened slightly on his. "Okay," she whispered. Somewhere outside the med bay, alarms echoed faintly. But here, in the sterile quiet, history was already rewriting itself. The sirens howled like metal wolves in the night, red pulses of warning light flaring along the corridor walls as if the base itself had begun to bleed. Michael Carter stood barefoot in the common hall, pulse hammering against his ribs like a prisoner demanding release. His sidearm was drawn, half forgotten in his hand, but his instincts screamed not of invasion, not of war, of something else, something colder, older, a breach, no contact, no known threat. And then the cameras began failing, one by one, blacked out as if a shadow had swallowed the eastern wing of the base whole. He made it to the security checkpoint just as the final feed dissolved into static. Then came the hiss of a sealed door opening. Smoke curled in tendrils through the frame before the figure stepped forward. Slow, deliberate, her outline blurred by the heat and haze of the corridor behind her. Not storming, not sprinting, walking, as if every second of her arrival had been pre-written. Her silhouette solidified, tall, poised, armored in dull, matte red composite. Siroth command design, but no insignia. Her face, when it emerged from the veil of smoke, was unmistakable. Thais. Her eyes were the same, sharp, multifaceted like cut garnet, but older now, hardened, a scar jagged across the left side of her temple, disappearing into her silver hair, which had been shaved on one side in what looked like a survivalist cut. Her mouth moved before Michael could form a word. "I didn't come to fight." Her voice, once music, now ash, spilled into the hallway with a kind of weary finality. "I came for my daughter." Michael couldn't breathe. It was as if all the oxygen had been ripped from the room. "You were declared dead," he said, each syllable dragged from a throat suddenly thick with ghosts. "I was," she said, stepping fully into the light. "By my own kind." No weapons raised, no guards shot, just a broken commander standing in the middle of a Terran research base with nothing but words and silence for armor. "I sent her to you," she continued, gaze steady but no longer sharp, "because I knew what they'd do to her, to me. She's what they fear, what both our species fear, a fusion neither side wanted." She exhaled, a shiver of breath barely audible. "But I didn't expect you to keep her." She looked down, and when her voice returned, it cracked, not weak, but human in the way pain makes us all identical. "I didn't expect you'd love her." Michael stepped forward, stunned by how much of her was familiar and how much was alien now, battle-worn, gaunt, haunted. His voice wavered. "She calls me Dad." Thais closed her eyes, just for a moment. "She should," she said. And the silence between them was not empty. It was the sound of something once buried clawing back to the surface. "She's my daughter too."
The war room reeked of politics. The sterile chill of recycled air couldn't scrub the heat from the voices echoing off steel walls. Arguments coiled through the chamber like smoke from a battlefield long gone cold. But Michael wasn't listening anymore. Not to the Accord generals pounding fists on the table, not to the counselors whose credentials weighed heavier than their empathy. He stood still while the storm raged around him. "She is not a child. She is a variable," said Admiral Rao. "A hybridization threat with strategic implications we don't yet comprehend." "Ariel is not a weapon," Michael growled through clenched teeth. "She was never yours to raise," came the reply. "And Thais? She's a defector at best, a sleeper asset at worst." Then came the ultimatum, delivered with the cold efficiency of a kill order. "Surrender, Thais, or we take the girl." The silence after those words was louder than any missile strike. Later, in the quiet of the medical observation wing, where Ariel had once taken her first steps under warm lights and artificial gravity, Michael stared out over the frost-lit cliffs beyond the base. The stars above were no longer symbols of wonder. They were borders, threats. A Siroth fleet loomed in orbit, its presence a sharpened blade resting against every diplomatic pulse point. He didn't hear Thais approach, but he felt her before she spoke. "I'm not here to take her back," she said, her voice low but unshaking. "I came because I want to stay." Michael turned slowly, eyes searching hers for duplicity, for some hidden mission buried in her calm. But what he saw instead was far more dangerous. Truth. "You want me to adopt you too?" He joked weakly, trying to summon levity.
His smile faltered when hers never came. "No," she said simply. "I want to be her mother again. I want her to know both of us. Not fragments, not regrets." Her gaze didn't falter. "I watched you from afar, on Theraxis, on Vega Colony. I watched her learn how to walk, how to speak. I saw her draw stars with crayons and call you Dad. And I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because you did what I couldn't." Michael stepped back, the words hitting harder than the threat of warships ever could. "You want us to be a family?" he asked, barely able to breathe the word. "Only if you can see me," she said. "Not as a fugitive, not as an alien, but as someone who once chose peace and lost everything for it." Her voice cracked, not with weakness, but with the weight of what she carried. "I lost her once, Michael. I won't survive losing her again." And in that moment, guilt rose in his throat like smoke from a long extinguished fire, thick, choking. Because all these years he'd buried her in memory, called it closure, called it survival. But she had lived, and so had the possibility they'd both run from. The grass was soft beneath Michael's boots, dew clinging to the soles like the final shreds of a nightmare. Behind him, the dusk-kissed sky shimmered with the faint burn of descending transports. Accord enforcers, dark and angular against the fading sun. The warning klaxons had long since quieted, but the tension in the air crackled like a live wire. He stood in front of the door to their modest hillside outpost, arms wide, his body the only shield between the authorities and the lives behind him. Unarmed, unflinching. The ground beneath him felt steadier than it had in years. "You're out of jurisdiction," he called to the officers stepping forward. "This is a private dwelling under provisional sovereignty." One of them, a commander with silver insignia and eyes like glass, replied without emotion. "Under Emergency Directive 47B, hybrid subjects of planetary concern are no longer protected by—" "She is not a subject," Michael snapped. "She's my daughter." Behind him, a figure moved through the doorway. Thais. Once a specter in battle armor, now draped in soft, earthen-toned robes. Her posture was not one of defiance, but of devotion. She walked to Ariel's side and knelt, silent, unarmed, unyielding. Ariel trembled. Her small hands began to glow. First softly, then blinding, as if 2 stars had ignited in her palms. The Sarath called it Essentia. The humans had no name for it. A fusion of sciences and sorceries both sides barely understood. Her eyes, violet and wide, scanned the crowd of armored bodies and blinking drones. Then she spoke. "You told me love means staying," she said. "So I'm staying, with both of them." The light from her hands pulsed, not as a weapon, but as a heartbeat. Cameras, hidden by a sympathetic technician, captured it all. The trembling child, the kneeling mother, the human father standing between a family and a firing line. Within hours, it went viral, across sectors, across languages, across species. A plea, not for peace, but for recognition, for belonging. And the impossible happened. The Accord rescinded the extraction order. The Cyroth ships broke formation and turned away. No missiles, no raids, no war. Just quiet. Later, on the hilltop where the standoff had ended, Michael and Thais sat shoulder to shoulder. Ariel laughed in the twilight, chasing bioluminescent fireflies that flickered like tiny memories come to life. "You think they'll accept us?" Thais asked, watching their daughter with unreadable eyes. "They'll have to," Michael said, "because we're not going anywhere." He looked out over the stars beginning to bloom above them, and for the first time since the war began, since love was lost and fear took its place, He didn't feel broken. He felt whole. They had asked not to be soldiers, not to be pawns, just to be a family. And somehow, against every decree, every law, every line drawn in blood, they were.